Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast on this Friday as the Eagles get ready to take on the Colts. It is brought to you by EMT Solar and Roofing. See your home qualifies. See if your home qualifies for a free roof with solar installation. No commitments, no hidden fees. Go to ESPNsolar.com to see if you qualify. Adam Caplan from InsideTheBirds.com and the Ins Podcast joined us on this Friday edition of Football at 4. And Adam, we have a ton of things to talk about on this Friday. How are you?
I'm good, my friend. Yeah, look, it's been a wild week in Eagleville with all the transactions. It wasn't just the two D tackles. There was a lot going on, but obviously the decision to bring in two veteran tackles clearly in their career, but interesting nevertheless. It just tells you once again that they're trying to go somewhere deep, and that's obviously the Super Bowl. You don't make these moves if you're a team that's not going to make the playoffs. That's kind of what I said on our show this morning, that, why would you do this if your team's not going anywhere? This is something in 2020 I don't think they would have done.
Yeah, and Adam, let's break it down a little bit. How do these guys fit in? What do we see from these guys? I mean, most of the people out there are just assuming, okay, you brought in two aging guys. How much do they play? What are their roles? Where do they fit in? How does John Gannon use you? There's a lot we can really discuss here. What do we think on how Linval Joseph, who's really a zero guy, and Sue, how do you see Sue? Because he, I think, is the more interesting of the two. I think Joseph is kind of self-explanatory. You're the nose. But what is Sue's role?
So Sue's a backup three technique. But he's not your – sometimes, like Fletcher Cox is a big-time pass rushing three technique. That's what will put him in the Eagles Hall of Fame, is his ability to do that. Where Sue is both power and – nastiness, and he can rush the passer too, no doubt. But let's face it, Mike, he's nearly 36 years old. He turns 36 in January. He's a phenomenal football player, not a Hall of Famer, but who was good last year. There's no question. He had a good year last year. But they were not going to pay him anywhere close to probably what he thought he should make. The Bucs, by the way, I'm talking about, he won a Super Bowl with them 2 years ago. And this gives him a chance to get a ring, just like Linval Joseph, who's a completely different player. In fact, I met him. I'll get to him in a second. It's kind of funny. But when it comes to Sue, what this also tells you, because people are trying to figure this out, and I totally understand the question. What does this mean for Milton Williams? Well, first of all, Cox played too many snaps in this past game. The loss to Washington, and that to me is some sort of indictment on Williams in terms of how many snaps he can handle. It's not like the Eagles don't like Williams, but he has not kind of progressed this season as much as he should have. And why not bring a veteran in who's been there and done that? You don't have to ask Sue to play 50 plays a game, maybe 15 to 20. Let's say it's your usual 60 plays a game rather than the 51 plays the defense was on the field for the first half last week. Let's just say overall you're playing 60, 65 snaps a game on defense. Well, Cox maybe 40 to 45, Sue 12 to 15, and then Milt Williams a little bit. And that's the way I see it, where Joseph is obviously a backup nose. I met him at the Super Bowl, one of the biggest human beings I've seen, because he's broad, he's long. He has 34 and a half inch arms or 35, 6'4" and a half. He looks bigger than that, but he's not like super heavy where some guys are that big, might be 350 or 360. He's not that big, but this gives him tremendous depth on the defensive line. And Hargrave now, you don't have to overplay him. That's also another thing. These guys played too many snaps in that game. Not only was the run defense bad, I think they were probably a little bit alarmed about how many snaps they had to play.
Yeah, I know Fletcher Cox certainly was. He didn't seem all that happy. He didn't feel like he didn't feel all that great. And keep in mind, the Eagles are playing on a little bit of a short week here. They played Monday night. Now you got to bring in some extra bodies here. Now, part of this is you played 80 plays on defense. That's not normal. So
no, you can't have that, Mike. Right. And you wish that the younger guys were ready to go. And Tui Pelotu had that knee injury, which we were not aware of when it happened. They never announced it, by the way, so we're not even sure when it happened during the game. But fact of the matter is, They needed depth, and this is a see. I thought the Robert Quinn acquisition was a little bit too strong when people are saying, "Oh, that this is them going for it." No, they wanted depth at outside linebacker. They didn't think they had good enough depth, but this is depth, and also it's almost overkill. Like, say, how many D tackles do you need? But you need a run defensive front, and you need a pass defensive front.
And
remember
Adam,
that.
I want to get your opinion because, like, when Jordan Davis comes back, this could actually be a blessing in disguise because they didn't really have another guy for Jordan Davis. Like, he was only playing 40% of the snaps or whatever it was. But now you can, if Linval Joseph can come in and show that he still has some gas left in the tank, you can run a lot more of that style of defense without Jordan Davis on the field.
Right, and by the way, I know this year they're pegging him as a nose tackle, but he could eventually, when he gets in better shape, he has athleticism to play 3 technique. So don't forget about that. But that'll be next year or the year after. That's not going to happen now. And right now, he's a nose tackle.
All right, you got the injuries. I don't think the injury official report has come out yet, but A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, we know Goddard's out. We got some guys banged up here. What are we looking at on Sunday on the Eagles side of things, especially with Goddard out?
Yeah, so right now you're going to see Calcaterra handle a lot of that past sort of receiving role. It's not going to play a ton of snaps, but when they're on third down and long, probably more than 5, you'll see him in, or more than 4. Look, Jack Stoll's role will grow because he's their number 2 tight end. And then Tyree Jackson, look, he's eligible to play. We don't know if he'll play. Now Noah Tungiai, he's got one elevation left. So that's one thing they could look at. For the people asking about Richard Rodgers, no, it won't happen. He's with the Chargers. There's no trades, so trade deadline passed. So it's going to have to be those guys. Now, what you can also do, the Eagles are a heavy 3-receiver team anyway, but Calcaterra is a guy that you could flex out. He's super explosive. He's just a smaller tight end, and don't forget about that injury history.
Yeah, he's a guy that was hurt a lot in college. In fact, to the point where I believe he retired and then kind of came back because of a lot of concussion problems. So the Eagles injury report, we are kind of waiting to see because normally right about this time it will come out. I wouldn't anticipate anything crazy on there, but you talked about not having Goddard out there. Does that mean more volume for because Sirianni kind of insinuated, hey, maybe we get the receivers a little bit more. He mentioned Brown and Smith on his Monday press conference.
Well, actually, you know what I'd like to see, and he also mentioned this as well, and it would be long overdue, getting the running backs, Mike, involved in the pass game, particularly the screen game, because now with Goddard, who's one of the best screen tight ends in the NFL, they need to find another way, and to do it, get those running backs, Mike, on linebackers. That is the best way to do it. And I'm hoping they would do that because, boy, they've been underutilized. It's the one area where I think the coaches could do a better job is get the running backs more involved.
All right. Give me some thoughts on the concerns about this unique situation. Now, Jeff Saturday coached his first game last week, but you don't really know much about what he does. And I would imagine you think he's going to run the ball. This is an offensive lineman scaling things back, but concerns about the Colts playing at home with Jeff Saturday as their head coach now, how that changes the dynamic of this game.
Oh, they're going to be a run game team. Look, he's not calling the plays, but absolutely, Mike, they'll run the ball. By the way, Kwity Paye, who's a former first-round pick, is out. I'm looking at their injury report, which I just got. They'll have all the other important players will play, but Kwity Paye, who's a first rounder last year out of Michigan at DN, they don't have any good depth at DN. They're actually now down 2 DNs. Tyquan Lewis is out for the season, who is his backup, so that. They're going to go with a second rounder in Paye's place, but they're going to run the ball out. They're not going to ask Matt Ryan to win the game for them. This is where Frank Reich, I think, made a mistake, and I would expect things to change a little bit. It's just you've got a guy like Jeff Saturday, who's a former Pro Bowl center. He knows the team. He knows you can't ask Matt Ryan to keep dropping back, and Ryan doesn't throw the balls as well as he used to. Remember, the Eagles got him week 1. People forget last year at Atlanta, they got after him, and I expect a lot of running on Sunday.
This is a game where we saw Washington last week run the ball 49 times. That was their intention, to keep the game close. I guess we anticipate, can the Colts keep this game close by following the same blueprint, or is their defense not equipped to keep the game close? In other words, Philadelphia could have scored more last week. Washington's defense did a good job, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Way too many 3 and outs. Do you see a similar blueprint in this game?
I would say, Mike, when you look at kind of what I call game flow, the thing is I don't see it high scoring. Now, this past game was a little bit high scoring, but remember the touchdown was on defense, the final one. But unless there are a lot of turnovers, which could happen, obviously, I don't see a lot of scoring here. The Colts, they have trouble scoring, but I'll tell you what, they give up no production to receivers. They're number one in the National Football League in terms of giving up production. They're just great. Where they struggle is they give up a lot of production to tight ends, but of course Goddard's not playing. So this could be an opportunity for Calcaterra to make a big play down the seam. Remember, they play cover three. Cover three beaters are tight ends down the seam or down the left middle. That's what coaches tell me around the NFL. I've talked to about cover three. So maybe Calcaterra gets loose downfield. But the bottom line is, Mike, that I don't see a lot of scoring, again, unless there are a lot of turnovers. Colts have a very good defensive front. They play a 43 front. And it's Gus Bradley is running their defense. So the Eagles have to manufacture points without Goddard. I just don't think people understand how special that guy is. It's everything they do. Run game, blocking, pass game. He was headed before this injury for 85 to 90 receptions. He's a game-changing tight end. He's certainly one of the best in the National Football League. It's too bad he got hurt.
Yeah, by the way, the Eagles injury report has just dropped. They have full participants all the way across the board. A.J. Brown, Fletcher Cox, Devonta Smith, they are all full participants. The only player who is out, is Josh Jobe, is the only one out. So the Eagles are, for the guys who are healthy, obviously Goddard, Jordan Davis, Maddox, they are still out. But this is good news that Brown should not be hobbled because there's some questions, whether he was playing at full strength the other night, I guess, in that game.
Yeah, he said it was minor. He said there's nothing to worry about. I'll tell you this, Mike, when we look at A.J. Brown, and he took all his reps today, I want to watch him early in the game without Goddard. So just to finish this talk off, it'll be Brown and Smith are your top two targets. The third one, Moshe and I were talking about this morning. It's tough to figure that one out. Because Watkins, obviously, is a guy that's never commanded the football. He's been a shot play receiver. He'll see more playing time without Goddard because I don't know that they could play as much 12 personnel without Goddard in the lineup. And then Zach Pascal goes against his former team. Revenge game. It's kind of fun. It's kind of funny. And then look, you could get Gainwell more involved. Remember how great he was in 2019 at Memphis, his only season where he played. He was incredible. He took 2020 off due to the pandemic. So I know he's dropped. He had a bad drop last week, but they've got to find a way, Mike, to manufacture a passing game here.
We'll see it all. By the way, A.J. Brown, last time he faced this Colts team last year, 10 catches, 155 yards. So keep an eye on A.J. Brown on Sunday at 1 o'clock, and you can hear that game right here on 97.3 ESPN. He's Adam Caplan. You can hear him on the Inside the Birds podcast, and he'll be back on Tuesday and Wednesday next week. Right here on a short week, we'll talk to Adam on Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll look back at the Eagles-Colts, and we'll look ahead to the Eagles and Packers, who looked last night. Adam Caplan, thank you, bud.
Thank you.
Adam Caplan here on Football at 4.